Yo, what's going on, family? This is your boy Josh, and you are tuning in to the podcast Just a Kid from Gary, a podcast that is inspired to encourage others around the globe to achieve their dreams and make them a reality. And in this podcast, we highlight individuals that grew up in Gary or cities like Gary and now are doing amazing things for their community. And today, got a good one for you guys. I always do. I always do. Today, I am with Councilwoman Ty Atkins. She is doing some phenomenal things back in the city, and she's the perfect Just a Kid Gary host or guest, excuse me, to be with us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to engage in some enlightening conversation with you. So I'm doing
Enlightening,
well.
enlightening indeed. That's good to hear. This one has been in the pipelines for a couple of months now. I know that we've been
Right.
really trying to get something going, but before we really get into things, go ahead and tell the people about you. You know, what are you doing? Why are you on this podcast, and why we're gonna have an enlightened conversation?
All that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I am just a kid from Gary, right? I am a proud Gary native, born and raised on the east side. I think one of the reasons why you were more inclined to have me on this show is because of my current work at home. I am a part of the council, the Gary City Council, as we briefly mentioned. But I think the story in terms of how I got there is more of the attention grabber. So, like
Hmm.
most of us as millennials, we kind of grew up to be encouraged to leave the city.
True.
And so, though we grew up with a love for home, there was nothing to attach us to the city from a longevity standpoint. And so, as you know, we have struggled economically. So, like many, I did leave the city. I am a West Side grad and left to pursue education at Purdue University. I did graduate with an engineering degree, worked for a number of years, and went and got my MBA. And so after that, I moved around a lot for work. So I had great opportunities, great experience. I lived in Mexico, lived in LA, lived in Atlanta, New York. And so my mom actually was still here and she ended up getting sick. And so I came back home to take care of her. And so it was when I came back home, it's different when you visit home versus when you come back home and you
True.
have been introduced to different ways of life, different ways of community in different areas, right? And so you come back to
Right.
where you're from, where you love, and you see that it has been neglected. And so because
True.
of that, I kind of decided to use my skill set to kind of help the hood, help the city. It is definitely needed. So we need more people like that. We need more expats, as I would like to say. You do not necessarily need to take that route to come back home and stay to make a difference, but that is what God led me to do. So yeah, so after my mom expired, she did pass away. I kind of was searching for a new purpose, and I
True.
do feel that God truly leaded me to utilize, what I had for the betterment of the people. The city has responded very well. The district that I represent, the fourth district, which is the largest district in the city of Gary, has responded well, having a younger person who is excited, who has brought innovative thoughts, initiatives back to the city. They are thriving off of that. So I'm looking to keep that momentum and hope to make some impactful changes within our city.
Talk your stuff. Talk your stuff. That's what I like. That's what I love to hear, man. I love to hear when when we even had our conversation. It was like, it's so easy to leave the city because you can think about what your education has given you and what impact you can have on these other already pre-existing or building communities. But it's then like, what can you do now to really just take everything you've learned and impact your own community? And I think that takes a level of integrity. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think integrity, courage as well. Um,
Uh, uh-huh.
you have to be fearless to do it because you have to be able to let go of what once was and be ready to embrace as we say, like in business, you have to be able to deal with the ambiguity that's associated with it, right?
Yeah.
So that is true. Being able to leverage all of those characteristics and skill sets is needed. And so I think I'm doing okay. I'm still learning, right?
Right.
But so far so good. So far so good.
So you talk about building and some of the challenges. What are the challenges that you face, and what could you be saying to some of the people that could help you overcome some of those challenges? Like as far as what I'm saying, you playing your role, especially as one as councilwoman, but then you as just this like network of well, the businesswoman that you are. So what challenges do you face?
I think one of the main things that I've seen is just having to deal with change management.
Hmm.
Um, being someone who wanted to come and kind of excite, wanted to use, this so-called corporate skill set that I had to try to foster a different way of thinking, to try to encourage and facilitate, a sense of community. That's also being a change agent here at home. And I say that because historically, Gary is a city of tradition. We are a city of nostalgic. So even when it comes to from a political standpoint, people expect certain things out of your council person because of that's just how it is. But they have not taken the time to understand what the responsibilities is of a council person, what their
Mm.
breadth in terms of what they truly can do, you know, what your powers are. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that has been one of the challenges. Like there is no qualifications to run for office anywhere. I think that let me be clear. Municipal and local
Right.
government, there is no the only qualification you have is you have to be a resident of the city or the district, depending on what role. But learning your powers, learning law, learning legislation, learning how to build relationships to get things done within your district, all of that is challenging. And then also trying to influence that change at the same time. So you asked what was the meaning one, but those are the two different things, like learning the role, but then also being effective in the role at the same time that you're learning it, and then trying to influence change in the mindset of the people.
Mm.
That has been hard. that
When you
has
say
been hard.
changing, yeah, I agree. When you say changing the mindset of the people, though, um, in what perspective? Are we referring to changing them from um something of the old to the new? Are we talking about something that's more progressive? What are you saying when you say change the mind of the people? That's a
It's a lot of different
Oh, I
arrows
can imagine.
connected to that, but
I can imagine.
I'm gonna give you a couple. So the powers in the people. That's so cliche, but that is. And I think that our people don't understand that. So, for example, as I'm learning my role, I am only a representative of the people. So, if
Okay.
I'm trying to get something done legislatively, which means the law in the city of Gary, it's more impactful when I got 12 people from my district showing up to the meeting, also encouraging and saying, yes, we're supporting Councilwoman Atkins.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want as a people.
Yeah.
So that part of it. So trying to educate the community to understand the power that they have after the vote. So the power that you have after electing me is more, it weighs more than the power that you have of voting me in.
Yeah.
Because I need them to show up and show out when it's time to get things done for our district. The
Right.
only way that I could make the fourth district a priority, for example, in blight removal, which is like, we have a lot of abandoned buildings on the east side in Midtown, Emerson,
True.
wherever.
True.
So for us to be a priority, I'm advocating for us, but it's more powerful when I got my people behind me pushing that same agenda, right?
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
that's the part that I try to encourage every time I have a meeting. I set themes. So going into my second year of my term, the theme for my district is become informed, be informed. So I'm always letting them know like the power that they have. I'm always letting them know what resources are available to them. As a resident of the city, as a taxpayer of the city, because
Yeah.
I think that that's where the disconnects are. And just understanding that. So that's one example
Right.
of that, but it carries on in us as a community being activated, being ready to to move and be mobile. in terms of the agenda that we want to have within the district, within the city, and then understanding what community means as well, right?
Sure.
So, in the other areas that I named that I've lived in the past, that's one thing that I saw worked for those areas, those cities, is that though the people who lived in that neighborhood, they understood community and they stayed connected to each other. They knew who lived, who moved in before I even got settled. Okay, they knew where I worked at, where I came from, and they made it a point to encourage me to understand the law of the land, or this is how we move around here. From something as simple as, we usually don't park on the street at night, even though it's not illegal to, but that's just the way that they have cultivated the neighborhood to be respectful of the way that they move. So
Right.
I think that we and Gary need to kind of go back to that, developing a sense of community within each other, and then working to help move the agenda for the city along.
What is the best way, in your opinion, to develop that sense of community? Because how I understand it is getting people involved. Pulling them in. Building some type of equity, so either sweat or the financial equity. So, in your opinion, what are ways that people could be involved, or we can build communities? Because I agree with you. When you were saying that the most impactful way of even moving forward is the community.
I think that's a challenging question for me because I'm still trying to figure that out, right?
Respect.
So, getting the buy-in, and let me be getting the consistent buy-in, because which
Mm,
has been a challenge. Things that I have tried to do is, for one, I have tried to initiate initiatives that were truly targeted into what the community said they were looking for. They wanted
mm,
more engagement with the leaders of the city, with the kids, the youth. So a couple of things that I had, I initiated a Student of the Month award. So we had a fourth district Student of the Month. It was an
mm.
opportunity for one to give kids a chance to actually engage with senior leadership and their parents as well, because the parents will be more engaged to watch the city council meeting to see
Right.
if their baby was getting selected, to be recognized. So that was something
Um,
small, but
yep.
that was, gaining. I think also being accessible. So again, the council meetings, being able to call City Hall, that's one thing. But I also had Table Talk with Ty, which was
Mm,
an opportunity for community people to come and have informal conversation. I also had my community meetings, but my community meetings are very structured. So the table talk sessions was supposed to be geared for something like this. Like, we can sit down and, I'm sitting at the table on their level as well, so they can know that I'm equal. And then I would have guided conversations such as, what do you want your neighborhood to look like? What are some of the things you wish that your council people would do? What areas within the city that you want to have more knowledge on? So we would have conversations about that. Also, I wanted to give opportunities so that our small businesses could be visible.
yeah.
So one of the things that I had as a year one goal was to increase, or work to increase, small business visibility along the Broadway corridor.
Mm,
Well, I kind of alluded to, as I'm learning the role, there's only so much influence I have as a council person. But in terms of like working with redevelopment to get small businesses in my district, like, I'm still learning how to be able to influence that. So in the short term, I was able to say, hey, I know COVID-19 is happening. A lot of small businesses within the area, some might be struggling, some have
sure.
like a lot of online presence. Maybe if we created a small marketplace so that people could come and practice social distances, and then this would kind of increase some type of revenue for these small businesses, right?
Yeah.
On Broadway. So that's the connection to the Broadway corridor. And so that's what we did. We had a fourth district summer bazaar. It took place in August. I had about 25 vendors out there, from Gary and
I heard
neighboring.
about that. I heard
Yeah, so it
about
was
that.
dope.
Yep.
It was dope, right? I
Right.
wasn't expecting it to be,
I
as
heard
well
about that.
received as it was. Yeah, so that is something that I will try to do on a recurring basis. So my way to get buy-in is to show the people that I'm out here working. So I think for a long time and for decades, we've had leaders who talk, but has not been actionable in terms of what they're talking about. So I'm hoping with the cadence that I have created, with initiatives, and driving it, and being open, to have those intimate conversations with people, they will start to attach themselves and wanting to be engaged and wanting to be more present and visible within the community. So that, those are some of the things. But again, I think people are so disconnected. And when they see you, I stepped up to make a change. But I get so sometimes you get negative feedback. They look at you, they say, "You a politician." And I hate that word. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, because that's a negative connotation. So I
Yeah.
try to redirect that to just be like a community advocate so
Yeah.
people can feel more included and wanting to connect and wanting to stay engaged. But like I said, that was my method year one. And so I'm hoping that I will get increasing involvement with the community going into year two.
Hey, that's dope. That's dope. You know, we just recently lost a vital part of Gary, Mayor Hatchett, and a lot of I think the most significant or important things was he always had this spirit of building and pushing Gary forward. And then even during his time period, he had a lot of challenges, but after that, we just seen this dramatic stop. In your opinion, what happened? What kind of take us through what I talk about it all the time, but I just want to hear someone else's, because I think we're not talking about what actually happened. I know we want to move forward, and we are, but I think that until we address some of the original problems, how can we truly move forward? People just blindly moving forward and not knowing what happened. So, in your opinion, talk to me.
Yeah. So this is always an interesting, topic of discussion.
Yes, it is.
I am an advocate. The motto of the fourth district is "A turn towards tomorrow." So I'm an advocate for looking forward towards tomorrow, but you do need to understand where you have been to understand where you need to go, right?
Where you going? Yes.
So the major piece that I think that maybe younger people who might be in tune to this podcast do not understand is when Mayor Hatchard was elected, it was very controversial because he was the first African American mayor of a major city. And this city was the flip of what it is now, almost in terms of the demographic of, white Americans versus, African Americans, etc. Yeah. And so when white flight, which is like, the Great Migration of the South up to the North, that happened within the ramifications of the 54 square miles of Gary. When that happened, literally right after he was elected, there was also legislation passed to ensure that this area was not profitable, for one, and progressive from an economic development standpoint. Now, I can't quote what state legislate, like the number of the bill, the House bill or the Senate bill, but I can get that information for you if you want to post it later. But definitely, there was massive attempts at the state level to prevent expansion for the city of Gary. There was language in certain laws that will say if there's a city, located next to an incorporated area close to a body of water or a lake, to the point where it would be so detailed, the only city in the state that hit those parameters was Gary. Correct. And so that means that there was a lot of restriction in terms of funding that we could get. They put the clamps on him in terms that really made him have to change a lot of the economic development plans that he had set up. Now, I do know that because him having the momentum of being the first African American across the U.S., be clear, he was able to get federal funding. But I think the breadth in terms of where that went was in clamps. So that's a small part. I don't have enough detail to go in depth about that in terms of what legislation exactly, but that was a large part of the decline of the city. Being attracted to other industries, I think that was the main thing too. There was a miss in terms of this city being open or being engaging with other industries. It's 2020, we're still a steel town, which is sad. The steel industry has not been on an increase for a number of years. I know you're an architect, but even from an engineering manufacturing standpoint, we all know that, right? And then steel, has been outsourced to China for a number of years. So we have no other industry within this city that is driving economic and increases, that is providing jobs. And let me be, not jobs, providing careers, okay, for individuals who can make a substantial and sustainable lifestyle here in the city. So I think that's an issue as well in terms of what happened. There was a lack of aggressiveness with identifying another industry for driving economic development here. And I also think, maybe more recent, like within the last 20 years, so I think 20, maybe 15 years, the education system has been on decline here as well. And so, right. And one of the things that will be on the ballot for our city in November is an opportunity to support what is called a tax referendum. And so a referendum, the definition of that just means like a poll or a question. And so what it's asking is for residents within the city who are taxpayers, meaning that you own property, to support an increase in taxes, which equates to about 56 cents for every $100 of $1,000 that is for your property, that's your assessed value of your home. So I think, for example, if you have a $60,000 house that's assessed, the annual tax that you will get from an increase standpoint will be $100 additional. And it is asking for that support for 8 years. And that is supposed to go to the school system to help what is called operational costs. So it's an operational funding for infrastructure improvements on our existing schools, for increases for the teacher's salary. The teachers have not received a salary in a number of years, I think for 12 years, which then will affect their motivational drive to teach your kids, effectively. So I think that those are three major themes. I mean, the first being and I think Mayor Hatcher was elected in 1968, if I'm not mistaken. And so his first term started in 69. And then the clamps from a state perspective being put on him in terms of what he could do to promote the city and thrive from an economic development standpoint. The second one being, as I mentioned, the lack of industry. So the ball was dropped in terms of being able to probe and get additional industry here to have more of a thriving livelihood. And then lastly, it's the education system, which is a big issue in terms of us not having increasing levels of competitiveness from our curriculum that's offered within our school system, the teachers that we recruit, the retainment of the teachers, and then competing with the charter schools, right? And so
that's been a whole doozy in itself,
that's
right?
a whole hot mess, right? So I think that that, in addition to the obvious, which is the crime, but has been detrimental to the progress of this city.
Now, when you were talking, you were breaking it down. You did a fantastic job of just breaking it down on what you think, and not even just what you think, but what actually happened. Because I think that's a misconception that we get so much opinions thrown in there, but it's like, these are like things that actually happen. But when you were talking, it made me think about, what chain effect that happened. That's in the 60s, and we're still reaping the ugly and havoc chaos from it today. People are literally, this is over 40 years, 50 years ago, and we're still in the same issue. So it just shows you, and I like to even just bring in the ugly truth, the racial discrimination that our world plays literally to a community that could really devastate a community. And I think it's important for people to realize sometimes, we can blame each other and say this and that, but it's sometimes that, this is what actually happened, guys. So let's just strategize and come together so that we can make things, so we can change things. And that's what I'm so big about. It's like, when I went to school and I learned, like, I had to take the time to learn about that. I ran across that ugly truth by discovering what happened to Pruitt-Igoe and St. Louis. And then another example, like Cabrini Green. And then I started making the parallels, like, then what happened to my city? Because like I always say this, and you probably know this better than anybody, your parents would say, Gary back in his heyday. And I'm in college. I'm going, wait a minute. They're saying Gary back in his heyday, but like, what about now? Why did it change? And so my biggest takeaway from that was learning what actually happened. So that's one step. Like you said, you have to know what happened in order to move forward. Once we understand the problem, then we can say, okay, now these are ways that we can fix it. I take my hat off to that. That's dope. But moving forward, though, what is your goal? I would say, what is your end goal? Like what are you looking to do, or what is your drive, or at the end of the day, when the doors is closed and they say, "Hey, she did it," what is your goal? And that's what I want to talk about that, because I don't think a lot of people see young Black driven people doing things for their community and excited about it.
Yeah. So, when I first started, I had a short-term goal, and it was, I just wanted to be able to say that I left my city better, better where, from where it was when I found it. And that could be small incremental things or large scale. I would say within the last maybe 18 months, not even, maybe the last 12 months, that has totally changed. I think that I have participated, and I've been blessed to have amazing opportunities over the last year. I have been able to graduate from this program that is called Hoosier Women Forward, where they selected 20 women within the state of Indiana who had high potential from a leadership perspective in the Democratic Party. And we went through a 9 and 10 month program. Through that program, I was introduced to so much, and I started to see myself having the ability to do a lot more than the city council.
Yeah.
And it's not because I see that our people, African American, Black, we lack organization overall. We lack being informed overall. And when more recently, I've been reading things about one of the scholars, I should say, or activists, African American activists that I've been recently motivated by is Dr. John Henry Clark. So I have been reading a lot about him. I've been watching his YouTube videos. And also I see myself, not a man, but Whitney Young as well. So Whitney Young was very instrumental. I know, being from Northwest Indiana, we know the name, but when you actually take the time to understand the moves that they were making, and Whitney Young was very instrumental in getting corporate America to see their lack of diversity and being able to have a seat at the table. He was the first African Americans to be able to sit with Fortune 500 companies, board of directors, and help them implement, equal opportunity programming, et cetera. And so that's where I would want to see myself going. And also, I'm an advocate for changing the narrative of our people as well. So I would love an opportunity to kind of, either create or be a part of someone else's creation for different media outlets for our people, for us, by us, or being able to utilize my voice, in an existing national platform to tell our truth. And so that is where, I would like to take my talents to the next level. But at this, while I'm here though, I definitely want to make sure that my works leave some type of legacy upon the city where there are tangible things that people can say, okay, when Councilwoman Atkins was in this role, she was able to do X, Y, Z. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
You were speaking, especially anybody that studied Dr. John Henry Clark. Man, this dude is the truth. Truth, man. It's so important to study these people, man. They were so. I've been getting into, like, not even just Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Johann Ben. I can't think of it the full how to say his name, but Dr. Ray Hagan, all of these like influential people that care about the liberation of Black people and what they're doing or what they did, the books they wrote, the lectures that they taught. These are literally gold mines that just been sitting in the archives for us, and all we have to do is just reach in, get them, analyze it, and go crazy with it. I think that's dope, man. That's dope that you even brought that up. The fact that you studying them, yeah.
And as you said earlier, 50. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I was just saying, like as you were saying, 50, when we're talking about the decline of the city and like what happened 50 years ago, and just being able to understand the importance because those things are still relevant today. The same thing with these scholars. When you read their book, when you hear them talking, I mean, I'm amen and okay as if I'm in the crowd and I'm watching the video.
For real.
Because it's still today. So there is today. There's no need to recreate the real. We just need to. The blueprint
has been written.
Or right now, like I say, the blueprint is already created, right? But we need the right leaders, the right thrive, the right engagement, the consistency of the people. You and I had talked about like basically like the spider web. Like, this is the web of the people and this is across the city, the state, that is the type of connection that we need, that Martin Luther King had, that, Malcolm X had. Though they had different methods, they were still connected in the line on the movement. Yeah. And that's what we lack as a people. We have the BLM, Black Lives Matter movement, but it's in my opinion, keeping it 100, it's disconjointed in terms of the leadership, in terms of the connections across interstate connection, what I mean, even regionally. So those are the opportunities that we need to do. We need to understand the connection from being an activist versus being a legislative mover. And those two entities need to be connected to push the Black agenda. So I think that that's the level of like nonprofits too. Like, okay, we got a section of nonprofit groups that's helping, we all got to be aligned. And what's the path forward? We got the people who were knowledgeable in education. Okay, cool. We all are moving together towards the same end goal, and we are talking to each other and planning out the strategy. So I think that's the level of organization that the city needs for one, and then our people need as well for ultimate progression towards the right movement.
Can you talk to us about Reimagine Gary? I've been looking at kind of that restructuring and rebranding that has been going on. And I've been talking with people. I've been listening to the pros and cons, the people of the public and people of the private. And, people are, they have their opinions and everything like that. But kind of talk me through what is Reimagine Gary and the concept behind it.
So I'm going to keep it real with you because that is the mayor's, what the mayor branded his campaign on. Gotcha. And once he won, that is what his team decided to also integrate into the city and the administration. I'll share what I do know. What I do know, and this is just from being observed, is that they have this vision to reimagine the city. However, putting on my councilwoman hat again, as a council member, I don't know what that vision looks like. So gotcha. I would love to be able to share with you like the economic development plans and how we're going to get there and what type of funding they have to come in and what type of redevelopment they already have in a pipeline, but I don't know. They haven't shared that with us. But I could assume it's probably in tune with what all of us have. I mean, my tagline for my own self was improving the livability of the city, reviving the heartbeat of the city. The 4th district is nested in the middle, central location within the city. We are the heartbeat of Gary. And so we are reviving anything we do it intentionally. And so I'm sure, reviving the heartbeat of the city, Reimagine Gary, everybody got their own tagline. But in terms of what the city's plan is, I haven't seen that yet.
Now, because everybody has their tagline and everybody kind of have their mission, which I'm seeing a lot of similarities. Do you think there's too many cooks in the kitchen?
Cooks in the kitchen. That's an interesting way of putting it. I don't think so. I think that there's enough work for everyone.
Okay.
I think that leadership is needed, and I feel that just because I'm cooking and you cooking, I'm cooking in my own kitchen.
Okay.
And my recipe different than yours. But the end goal is to make sure that we feed everybody. So you may can only feed 50 people, but I can feed 30, but we got 1,000 people to feed. So who else can step up? So I think that should be embraced, but we all should be communicating with each other. We can't be feeding the same people, like for to stay on that analogy. I think that there is I think ultimately everybody, the heart is there. Everybody want to see the city move forward, because it ain't nothing here. And if you still here and you still fighting, and you got to, unless you just, I will hope so. I will hope so.
Though. But you have to though. You're right. You have to fight.
Yeah, like it's a fight. It's not easy. This isn't our neighbors, like at all. It's not. So I don't know if it's too many. That's a good way of putting it. And I feel myself trying to watch how I respond to that question.
I know.
I do think that I'll be transparent on this. I think that there is an issue between communication in terms of the leaders of the city. Absolutely. I think that it makes no sense that it's October the 12th and I don't know what the plan is moving forward for the city. Because going back to your analogy in terms of cooking, I can cook too, but I can help you. I can be your sous chef.
Yeah.
You see, I ain't got to be,
Give me the knife. Yeah. I'll chop up the onions. I'll chop up the peppers. Yeah.
If you let me know what the recipe is, okay, and I got you. So that's the type of like just partnership we need. Yeah, I would say that in a roundabout way. I do feel that, and this don't have nothing to do with the leadership, but just to try to give you another keeping it real, tea with Ty. That's another one of my things. Tea with Ty. Tea with Ty.
Tea with Ty. All right.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I don't like is like when the narrative in different media outlets is if that the city leaders do not want to work together, that it is targeted in being petty or targeted in just, like I can't speak on behalf of the council. I'm not the spokesperson, but I can tell you from my interaction with the council, we all got things that we want to accomplish, but we want to work together to get it done. And in my opinion, I can walk on my porch and look around and tell you, we don't have time to be petty. We don't have time to be ego tripping. We don't have time to be, you know what I'm saying? Like being narcissistic in our approach because, one person getting shot. All of that stuff, it's time out for that. Yeah. Because you mentioned like your parents and, my mom was one of them. She used to tell me all the time about the places they would go to downtown and shop. And I'm just looking, I'm like,
Where? Where did you used to shop?
Yes. Yeah. So generationally, again, the younger people, our love for the city is on a whole nother level. It's raw love. Like we love nothing. It was nothing to tell. We don't have those memories of going down. We don't have
That's true.
None of that.
Wow.
We don't have the memory of, oh, you know what? When I got out of high school, I got this good job at the mill. That was a joke to us. Like,
that's true.
No. But the love that when I meet somebody from Gary, when I'm in Atlanta or in Houston, anywhere, off the rip, it's
instantly. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it.
I'll give you a story. I lived in Atlanta. This was like my first executive. I was a director working for this company, Eaton Corporation. Yep. 2 stories. This guy, he was in the same office space as me. But he had like a cube. He was a salesperson. So, new people, well, I was new. So people were seeing me and was like, how long I had been in Atlanta working in another division for a minute and had just came to that location. Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh, where you from originally? I'm Gary. Oh, it's the brother from Gary. I'm like, nah, ain't nobody from Ain't nobody else from the G down here. And I working for Eaton because I would have known it by now, right? I had been with the company for like 3-4 years at that time. Sure enough, he was like out on travel. He came back, and I'm looking at dude like, this brother ain't from the crib.
This is how he's walking. Yeah.
Then he looking at, he's like, oh, you know how he introduces himself. He's like, I heard you were from here. I'm like, I am. I'm like, where you from? So my whole, vibe changed. I'm like, wait, where you from? I'm like, come to my office. I'm like, wait, where you from? He's like, I'm from the east side. I'm like, no, because I'm from the east side.
From the east side, right.
He's like, no, I grew up in the color doors. When he said color doors,
oh yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm like, what, you went to Russell? He's like, yeah, he's older than me. I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
So we come out, we're in the hallway talking, keying. This guy, white guy, he sat next to me. He was a VP. Never spoke to me. I had been there for like 6 months. Never spoke. I would say, hey, good morning. He didn't say nothing back. And I thought it was funny after a while. He heard me and Deshaun talking. And he heard us, was like, oh, yeah, like, that's so funny. I heard you some, whatever. He heard Gary. He came out his office. He was like, are you guys talking about Gary, Indiana? And I'm looking at him side-eye because he's never said nothing back to me.
Right.
I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're from Gary, Indiana? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm from Gary. I'm like, ain't no way.
Oh, man.
Ain't no way.
Oh, man.
He was like, I am vice president, okay? He's like, no, I am. Like, I went to Gary Wallace. And so when he said Gary Wallace, I said, okay.
Yep.
And from that point on, across the color, he was very helpful. What do you need? Are you okay? Yeah. So the love for home is just,
And it's something important about it too, because I don't care, even like Central Indiana, I mean, the most whitest people you've ever met in your life. If they have some ties to connect to Gary or some ways to connect you, they will definitely make it transparent. They were like, yeah, I'm from Gary too. He's like, but you got to think about it. They're part of that white flight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're part of the people that left.
Area. Oh, yeah. Gary Word. I'm like,
yeah. Okay. Yep. And that's what let me know it wasn't too long ago. It wasn't even too long ago that all of that happened. It's insane to think about. But you're right about that. When you're from Gary, it's just a different connection.
It's a different connection. So I think that is what we as leaders, should focus on every day. Every day I'm in the chambers, like when I have hard times, because sometimes the meetings are like, frustrating for me.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I have to think about. Like, God, like 2 years ago, I was searching for purpose. My mom passed away. I didn't know if I was coming and going. If you meet someone who really, really know me, my mom and I, we should have been twins. Okay. Like,
wow.
Sisters, best friends. Like, she was my everything. And like, so I literally struggled. Like life was good. What Future say? Life is good. That's how I felt back then until I was just like, God, why my mama? Like, how could this happen to us? Right. And then when she passed away, I literally was just like, what? And I was like praying hard. I got a true testimony in terms of how the vision to serve came up for me. And then I got confirmation. I was very specific. Like, if you faith-based, whoever, you got to be specific to God now. And I asked him for confirmation by the 17th of August, which was my birthday. And I got it August 3rd. I'm never going to forget it. And so with that day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go full steam ahead. I'm going to quit my job if I need to. I'm going to give everything to serve my city. So I have given up a lot to stay home, to make a difference. And so I take it serious. I'm very thorough in terms of giving information out to my people because of that. And it's all stemming from the love that I have for the city and driven by God showing me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I hope that, my colleagues, when they do have those tough times, or when they might feel like it's more self-innate in terms of why they're serving, they have to focus on just the love of the city and us trying to work together to improve it where it has been over the last 50 years.
Yeah. You were talking, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
You just said something there. This last big portion that you said something, purpose. I was talking with Leah Stewart, who is the founder of the ASW Foundation, and obviously is running her campaign of what is it? I am them.
I am them, and we got to get that. We got to definitely get this community center opened. You
Yeah.
know,
And I
Aaliyah
was
like close to me.
respect. So when I was talking with her, she was saying that, and this is something that I didn't realize, but at the same time, a lot of reason why we see a lot of the things happening as far as like on our level, like crime or, what I'm saying, yeah, just crime or violence in general, we realize that people don't know their purpose. So I heard you say that, and at least break me into that world so that others could see what defining that mean. I mean, she used the negative situation to discover hers. She lost two of her brothers. And I hear you kind of reflecting on some of that. Walk me through that, please.
Oh, wow. So just like in terms of how do you define purpose?
How do you find it? How did you walk up on it? What was that your mental space like? What were the challenges? I know that a lot of people struggle with purpose, but I'm a strong believer in it because I think that that's what gets people up every single day and keep our heart racing, keep our mind going, and keep us pushing for that goal, that end goal, or even perfection.
So, I think that the way that a person could find purpose, I don't think it's not cookie cutter. Maybe Aaliyah and I are similar in terms of having tragedy happen to us that help us kind of cultivate what purpose was after having that tragedy. But I don't think that's everybody's story. I think I
Right,
have a good friend of mine who found her purpose by going through exercises. So what she would do is she would just write down. I think she did this for like 2, 3 weeks straight. Every day she would wake up and she would just write down whatever made her happy. And when I say whatever, whatever. So so for example, food. So she'll say,
yeah,
okay, high level food, cookies, cars, Skittles, the color pink, whatever made her happy.
right,
She would then the next week she would look at that list and she would say, okay, what is it about the color pink that makes me happy? What is it about food that makes me happy? Well, it's not all food, it's cupcakes. Okay, so cupcake. So then the next week she would take that same sheet and she would say, okay, do I just like eating cupcakes? Do I like cupcakes? So it will go down deeper. Then
yeah,
the last one would say, is this something I can do every day without having to get paid for it? And then she would circle the ones that she felt like she could, so,
yeah,
yeah. So if it was like I'll use a cupcake one cupcake, what do you like about it? I like the smell. I like to buy them. I like da da da. Okay. Could you sell cupcakes yourself every day? And would that make you happy? Yeah, why not? So do you need to become a franchise owner of your own cupcake shop? Something like that. How could you
absolutely.
monetize
It
that?
starts those questions. Yeah,
So that is how a friend of mine, and I took that exercise years ago and pinpointed a couple of things, but nothing that I felt like I really wanted, that I could wake up every day and just put my all in. And so for me, mine was the tragic situation of my mother. My mother was my purpose by making her happy every day. I would, if something everything, like when I got a fellowship, I would just love doing things that I could call her and be like, Ma, guess what happened? And she would be like, girl, you did it again. Like, girl, you did. I love that interaction with her, right?
right,
So
right,
when I lost that, my mom was my person. So a friend of mine, when I decided to run, he asked me 3 questions. Who could you call at 2 o'clock in the morning if you needed anything? Who could you ask for $1,000 from right now and they not even hesitate to give it to you? And it was another question. And when I thought about that, I just boo-hoo because it was her. She's my person. I don't have anybody else. So I'm like, okay, like if my purpose is with her and she's no longer here, I have to find something to keep myself going. And I was in a moment of just like desperation,
right,
honestly,
right.
like knowing that okay, how can I keep my own self going? So I'm faith based, so I put all of my strength in praying about it and being specific in prayer. God, what is it? What is
Yeah,
it? I had already got involved in the community. I had started a block club and did just a couple of things before then. So it wasn't like I was thinking all the way
yeah,
serving and running for office. But I kid you not, that was all over the summer. I mean, I was every day. God help me, show me, show me. And so something would happen. I would reach out to the mayor, current mayor at that time, and say, hey, can we do a walkthrough in my district? Not trying to connect the dots, but it was just happening, you know?
Yeah.
Or I would talk to my godfather about something. He'll say, oh, you should go to this community event, da, da, da. So when I would go, I would speak, and people would be like, who are you? And, you know, so it was like, it was building momentum towards that. And
Absolutely.
then I'm just like, okay, I feel like an election coming up, we just need more, you know, people to be active and get things done. I feel like, so I was very intentional in prayer, and God gave me confirmation. A good friend of mine, he is the pastor for Tree of Life Missionary Baptist Church. His name is Reverend Eric. Let me give him his whole title, Reverend Dr. Eric Boone. Okay. So
Okay.
Eric and I have been knowing each other since we were kids. And so out the blue, Eric sent me a message on August the 3rd, like, sis, God is trying to tell me, He's telling me to tell you this. And I'm like, what? I hadn't talked to Eric in a while. And
Mhm.
he's like, God is telling me, how long are you going to keep playing? When are you not going to listen? You need to stop playing and listen to him and use your gift to lead. And you are serving, you know, use your servant leadership. I mean, being specific in what he was saying to me. And I just
Right.
lost. And I said, okay, God, I'm going to stop fighting it. So it
Right.
was that day, August 3rd. And so 2018. So I'm like, okay, I'm finna do this. This is what it is. So I had a job in Atlanta and was coming flying back and forth, trying to see if I can, you know, permanently be in this area, in the Chicago area. And
Right.
my boss at the time, he wasn't feeling it. So I said, okay, I am going to do this to the end of the year, travel back and forth, and then I'm going to put my all into running. And if it's meant to be, you know, meant to be, I ran against 6 other people, so it was 7 or 8 of us in that race. So I'm like, if it's meant to be, then this is what it is. But I feel like it's my time. So that's what
Wow.
happened for me. For
That's a
me.
beautiful story, though. That's a
Thank you.
beautiful story because it goes against the like you said, the norm of your friend, where you write down this list of things and then it happens, or you able to define and say, this is what I'm doing. It kind of happened through the spiritual realm. You know, it was kind of like that destiny call. You know, at the end of the day, will I answer type
Right.
thing, and you responded, and I think that's really significant. But I think that you just had so many confirmations that it was just so apparent that you had to do it. Because I think maybe one thing that people might struggle with is just the confirmation piece. But
Mhm.
this is what I've learned in doing anything productive. I don't know if, like, I think that is the confirmation piece. It's being able to just know that there's going to be this positive outcome of doing something amazing. And yeah, there are going to be like nights where you don't know where you're going. You're going to have to navigate this thing, but it's just something amazing about it. I love it. I love finding purpose. I love talking about it. I love hearing stories about it. So that's really, really dope. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed you. I enjoyed you. I think this is amazing outlet. I kind of talked earlier about the narrative, and I want to give you kudos specifically about utilizing your platform, your voice, to be a part of that narrative. You are giving the hometown little heroes like myself, you know, who are trying to do something better for our hometown, visibility to the masses. And so we thank you for utilizing your time and your outlet to shine light on us as well. So I appreciate the opportunity of being here with you.
Hey, respect. This is part of my purpose. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of other stuff, but this is a part of it. So I'm having fun when I do this. You know what I mean?
Uh,
This is fun for me. Learning, I love learning. You know, so I love putting myself in position to learn. If people want to tap in with you, people want to learn more, even about how to build better communities, work with you specifically, how can they get in contact with you?
yeah, I do have social media presence, but I'm more active on Facebook. So if you find my Facebook page, it's facebook.com/Adkins, ADKINS, for the fourth. And that is the number four, not FOR. So both for the fourth. Also, you know, I'm on IG as well, Atkins for the fourth. But also feel free to get in tune with me via the City Hall. So you can call my administrative assistant and always leave a message if you want to get in tapped in with me, and I can give you a call back. That number is 219-881-1315. But yeah, I'm out here. We out here. So I would
We out
love the
here.
help and engagement, even if you do not live in the city of Gary and you want to be tapped in. Please feel free to use me as a reference to just get you, in tune and engage with what other things that's happening in the city. I am or have, along one of my colleagues, recently started, or we just actually got the ordinance approved last week in the council meeting last week. We have established a Gary Youth Council. And so
Wow.
that is very important for me. There is a soror of mine who's also a member of Congress. Her name is Councilwoman Terry Swirl in the state of Alabama. And so she had this quote and it inspired me this summer. They had like a town hall with all the sorors. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Let me put that out there.
Gotta
So
let
all
them
the
know.
sorors in
Gotta
Congress,
let them know.
yeah, let them know that it was a town hall. And so one thing that she said, it is important for us in any leadership position to lift as we climb. So as a leader, as I continue to climb up myself, I'm always trying to make segues for others to come behind me and lead as they may. And so this Gary Youth Council is an opportunity to do that. And so it is, a segue for our youth members of our city to interact with our leadership legislatively, but it also will incorporate programming. And so we do have programming that will go towards the elements of government, leadership, service, as well as life skills that the students will participate in. And it's a 2-year program. So we will be looking for sophomores and juniors to participate in this program starting next month. And then the inaugural class will start in January of next year.
Wow. They're doing some amazing things, people. Y'all got to tap in. I got to get connected with Councilwoman Ty Atkins. Let me give you your flowers before you go, but keep doing great things. I'm really, really, really excited to see what you got and what you're going to do in the future. If there's even like a book, some type of module, something that you're going to put out there to the world that lets them know all of the cool things that you're doing. We definitely want to see that because there's nothing like progressing the city forward. And so I just definitely want to pay you your flowers, continue doing great things. There's going to be a lot of obstacles, obviously, because we're working with a lot and we're doing a lot, but hey, this is the road we all signed up for. So with that being, hey, no problem. With that being said, folks, y'all been tuning in to another episode of Just a Kid from Gary. I've been here with Councilwoman Ty Atkins. This is your boy Josh, and I am out.
Bye.